Well, Judge Ratha Mokgoatlheng will take over the Senzo Meyiwa murder trial on the 17th of July. The new judge takes over from Judge Tshifhiwa Maumela, who was unwell and later suspended for failing to deliver numerous judgments in a reasonable time. Mokgoatlheng has presided over some top cases, such as the case of former crime intelligence boss Richard Mdluli. For more on this, though, we speak now to Advocate Gerrie Nel, who's the head of the Private Prosecution Unit at AfriForum. Advocate Nel, good morning to you. Thank you so much for giving us your time. I think let's start off with whether or not you're able to confirm that you have been informed of the change of judge in the trial, and if this means that the trial then starts afresh.
Good morning, Naledi. Yes, indeed. We've been informed. We were informed yesterday that Judge Mokgoatlheng will be presiding over the matter. May we just express our best wishes, Naledi, to Judge Maumela and his family. They're going through a very difficult time at the moment. Having said that, it's unfortunate the trial will have to start de novo. So that just means we start from the beginning. The accused will have to plea again. We'll have to lead all the evidence that's been led thus far. We'll have to testify again. Naledi, it's very difficult for the Meyiwa family to understand why and to realize that they have to go through everything that they've been through again, and that the closure has been extended with quite a few months further if we get to closure. But Naledi, may we just say that Judge Mokgoatlheng comes with a wealth of experience. And interestingly enough, Judge Mokgoatlheng is a soccer star in his own right. He played soccer for Pirates and Chiefs before he practiced. So we hope, Naledi, that the prosecution will now focus on the relevant evidence. Thus far in the trial, we've come to realize that the defense is one of a total denial. If that is the case, then the state should really focus on leading that evidence that link the accused to the crime. The circumstantial evidence, identification evidence, and we really hope that the state will now focus on the relevant evidence so that we could get to the end of this trial.
I mean, there really is so much to talk about here, Advocate Nel, because, obviously then the question begs, if we see this trial then starting from the beginning, what happens to the testimonies that have already put on record? And what happens if in starting the trial afresh, you have discrepancies that perhaps contradict what we've already heard? What does that do to the quality of the trial?
Naledi, that's a big issue. The evidence that led this far is available for cross-examination. The witnesses will have to testify again, take the oath, testify in chief, and be cross-examined, and the defense will have access to the record thus far and will be able to challenge the witnesses' evidence with reference to what was said in the previous trial. So it's an unfortunate event. It's unfortunate that we have to start afresh, but I really hope that the trial will now speed up. I think most of the issues have been settled, I hope, and that we can get to the relevant evidence.
There is, of course, the question of, and this really takes us back to what we saw early on in the trial, this issue of a second docket that has come up, and one that would only be dealt with after this trial, I suppose, had wrapped up, because there were questions around whether or not they can be those dual processes. But what does that do then for when we get to the second docket, if in this trial we're needing to start from scratch?
Now, Lady, the whole issue about the second docket is irrelevant. I said so at the time, I'm saying so again. If we go through the evidence, if we started with the people in the house, I mean, we've now had the evidence of 2 people that were present in the house. If we go through all of this, it will become clear that the second docket, in terms of the merits of this particular case, will become more and more irrelevant, although the issue that the South African Police Service and management and the South African Police Service allowed a second docket to be opened, to be investigated, that is an issue of concern, and that needs to be addressed by police management. But as far as the merit of the case is concerned, Naledi, I do think the sooner we get to the relevant information, the sooner all questions may be answered.
When the last time we saw a postponement, we were able to see, our reporters were able to see a very visibly shaken and emotional sister of Senzo Meyiwa. I mean, talk to us about the state of the family. What state they're in, having heard the news that the trial now has to start from the very beginning.
Just imagine for yourself, Naledi. They've been waiting for justice in this matter. They've been waiting for closure for all these years, just to then now realize that we have to start afresh. They have to leave their lives in KZN, have to travel up to Pretoria to attend the trial. It's very difficult. It's difficult for the mother and the Meyiwa family. They just want closure. But the one thing we will do, Naledi, is we'll do our utmost. We will support the family. We'll take them through the process now, and we will try and indicate to them that perhaps the trial will now just speed up and we can get to the real evidence in this matter.
I think because of the public interest, Advocate Nel, in this matter, it certainly presents an opportunity for the legal system and the judiciary to make a representation of itself to the South African public, right? I mean, perhaps you talk to us about the quality of this legal process that we really have been seeing. I think about the family of Senzo Meyiwa and the delays that they've seen, even with just watching some of the fracas at the beginning of the trial with the likes of Malesela Tefo. I mean, going into now the trial beginning again, how do we ensure that the legal system and the judiciary is able to put forward a really good picture of itself for the public?
Naledi, if you excuse me, I wouldn't like to criticize counsel and to criticize the courts, but what I can say is what we've seen up until now is not an example of the legal system. It's not an example of the criminal justice system, and I have high hopes that going forward from now, that perhaps there will be a better idea of the justice system and about the criminal justice system. I think it's now settled, Naledi. I think the counsel for each of the accusers has now been settled. And I know that there will be meetings between counsel and the state. I hope that they will come up to some kind of arrangement to speed up the process, and that the state will now focus on the relevant information. Naledi, it's not the best example of a criminal matter that we've seen, and I won't use that necessarily as an example of the criminal justice system in South Africa.
Okay. And just lastly, before I let you go, unfortunately for the Meyiwa family, they've had to, in some instances, travel to Johannesburg to watch the trial play out. I mean, we know that that is emotionally, financially strenuous on them, I imagine. Will they be continuing to appear in court to watch proceedings, or is that going to continue to be rather difficult for the Meyiwa family?
Indeed, so. We've had contact with the Meyiwa family. We've indicated that the matter will start on the 17th, that we will ensure that they're here and that they stay present. It's difficult. Naledi, for them to travel all the way to Pretoria, to stay here for days on end, especially if it's a slow in progressing in the trial, it's very difficult for them. But Naledi, we've committed ourselves to ensure that they're here, that we'll support them, and we will continue with our commitment.
Yeah. Advocate Gerrie Nel, we really do appreciate your time. Thank you so much for speaking to us. Advocate Gerrie Nel is, of course, with the Private Prosecution Unit of AfriForum, supporting the Meyiwa family.